What is up, everybody, and welcome back. The music's still loud. Put that down. Much better there. All right, let's restart that then. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Camera Junkie livestream. My name's MCJHD. I'll be your host tonight. If it's your first time here, please be sure to introduce yourself into the chat. And as tradition goes around here, the first thing that we do is go ahead and check out to see who are the first members in the chat. And one thing I forgot to mention that I always do, you see, I knew there was something missing, is where I always remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. And that's something that I always say. So now with that being said, let's go ahead and see who are the first people hanging out here. All right. Kind of lost track of time a bit there. So, all right, where's my mouse? All right, we got Parker Jennings in the house saying what's up to everyone. How are you? We also have Mr. Moderator in the house saying what's up to Parker Jennings. He says, feels like it's been Saturdays for 2 days. Yeah. Gretchen's also saying hi to myself and the crew, saying happy Saturday, happy 4.5 of July, so to speak, because there's still fireworks going off like if it was the 4th, but it's the 5th, so it's the 4.5 of July. And Paul saying what's up to the fam and to Gretchen. And that's it for right now as we wait for the rest of the crew to trickle in. And if you haven't done so already, here's a reminder to hit the like button. It's highly appreciated. It's absolutely free. And you know what else is free? A subscription to this YouTube channel. So if you don't want to miss an upload or a Saturday live stream, because today is actually episode 240. Yep, and that's 240 consecutive weeks of the Camera Junkie live stream, and we do this every single week. The reason why I'm bringing that up right now is because out of all 240 of these episodes, they've all been held here at this location. And I have a bit of news. Some of you might already know, but I did find a new location for me and my father. And it's 20 miles away from this location. Now, we all knew it was going to be a completely different location, but I'll be moving up to the city of Coral Springs. So it's going to be quite a bit away from like the Miami and what I've been used to the majority of my life. But I did spend some time in New York, but now this is going to be kind of like the biggest change because it's nothing like what I'm used to in South Florida. But what that also brings up is that this is episode 240 and we only have 4 episodes in this location. So you're going to be seeing me start breaking things down even more than I have already. So it's like shelves, everything's coming down, the last bits, because we're just about 4 weeks away. And yeah, so we only have 4 more episodes. So this is 240. We'll have this one, 241, 242, and 243. And that will be it for Mr. Camera Junkie YouTube Studio #1 wraps and in the books. So it's going to be very interesting, but it's also going to bring a new challenge, which I'm also excited about because I really don't know how I'm going to lay out the new place. But there's going to be a lot more space. So I'm thinking that I might be able to have a couple of things set up all the time. And I think something that I've been missing for a long time is a clean overhead shot. Now, I love my overhead shot that I have here in the cage, but you know, now that I mention it, I'll just bring it up, right? I love this shot, but there's not a lot of room. Because right here is like my Rodecaster and my keyboard is hanging out over here. And this, I have it zoomed in. So actually, where's my mouse here? If I were to take off the zoom, right? See, like, that's about it. And what I'm going to try to show you guys tonight with the RigJunkie kit, it doesn't really have a lot of space to fit into this shot. So I think that in the future location I might have, well, I'm saying it now, I'm gonna have a more dedicated, maybe like a cleaner and brighter tabletop, because a lot of the things that I'm creating right now for the RigJunkie side is actually, you know, made out of dark filaments, you know, carbon fiber black. So everything is like absorbing light, and having not the brightest top makes it hard to see, you know, it's not easy to contrast. So for that reason, I'm just already thinking ahead of having like a dedicated overhead location for all of these projects, and to be able to like create the footage, right, the video instructionals of how to use it, how to put it together, and at the same time create my product photography, because the product photography is part of why we're doing this tonight. Now I'm going to show you my RigJunkie kit, but I'm going to be talking about it as I break it down, because I've been using it like this for just about a couple of weeks, but I'm very satisfied with this, and I'm going to make it officially for sale on the Fourth Wall site on mrcamerajunkie.com, and from there you'll be able to pick it up. But I have the instructional videos and everything already like made, and what I'm missing is the product photography. But how I have it all rigged out, I need kind of just like the body itself to show exactly what it is that you'd be purchasing. Now, with that being said, I now need to deconstruct my rig so that I can get that part by itself, so I can take photos of it. And that's why I said, like, in the future, in my new location, I can't wait to be able to have a dedicated location for both product photography and video overhead tutorials. So I'm looking forward to that, and not having to have everything do double duty, so to speak. You know, I have enough gear to be able to set something up there, utilize it correctly, and then it not even affect what I'm using for on the go, and at the same time not affect like a live stream setup, because I'm really excited. I did a lot with the limitations of this small space here. 240 episodes of live streams worth, and we're gonna top it off at 243 here. But I think you can see it on my face that I'm like excited for the new space and the new challenge of setting that whole thing up, how I'm gonna light it, so on and so forth. So hopefully, if you're interested, you could follow me along in this journey, because I'll be documenting it, both, you know, recorded videos and on the live streams once I go live for the first time from Coral Springs, which is going to be interesting. Now, one thing that it seems to be very fortunate for me is that there is fiber internet where I am going, which is like highly important, especially in the business of digital media creation. So that's where, you know, that was like one of my biggest things. But I'm also excited for Aiden, and to have, you know, like more space in general. So it's just gonna be a win-win. And the biggest win of all is that I'll be a lot closer to the rest of the family, both my sister and my niece, and their children. So it's gonna be a lot easier for everyone. And both, if my father and my sister, you know, like, they're just gonna be within like 5 minutes driving distance of each other, so they'll be able to see each other a lot more often. So just wins all around, and I'm excited for it. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and check the chat once again to see if no, don't have anything else right now. But I'm gonna get into breaking down my RigJunkie, the Ultralight for the FX3/FX30. Now, this is if you happen to have one of these cameras, but you do not have the XLR top handle, which is what I have here. Now, I have a rig that I'm making for the attachment of the XLR handle, but I'm still refining it. This one, I'm 100% satisfied with the finished product. It's rigid, strong, and very functional, and that's what I'm going to show you today. All right, so let's go right back to the overhead. Might change this. Let me see here. Yeah, I could work with that. Okay, so this got a lot brighter. I'm going to move the microphone over here. Get it out of the way. move some of this stuff here. All right, and try to use as much space as possible. All right. All right, this is the top down, but this is so close, you really can't see anything. All right, let me see how I'm gonna do this. You know what? No, let's just leave it. I'll work with it as is. I should still be coming in. Yeah, I'm still coming in clear, so loud enough. All right. So I'm about to tilt this guy, and this is exactly what I'm saying. I don't have a lot of space to show all of what's going on here, but a bit at an angle. We're gonna start at the top. I have my port keys, and this is the model PT52. It's the 5-inch monitor, 1080 resolution. It's got a bright output, very cool little piece of kit, and it is very light. It takes a Sony battery, right? The NPF batteries. Let me go grab one. So it takes the NPF batteries, these guys, and I actually have a much bigger one here, but seeming that the name is the Ultralight, right? We're trying to reduce weight. So I subbed the weight of this big battery, or either or, and I put a simple cable that runs down here, and it's just cable managed to the big boy battery on the back, the V mount or the mini V mount, and tapped directly onto the 8 volts. So that saves a lot of weight. Plus it's controlled by a simple button back here that as soon as I turn it on, it now powers up that monitor. Now, next, as you can see, a couple of weeks ago, we did the live stream where I was repairing this unit, and it's been working great for me for 2 weeks. Now, I threw it on here because I had it for this particular monitor, and now we have our Condor Blue bungee style HDMI 4K cable that I have connected to it, and then connected directly to the FX30's full-size HDMI, and then pinched down by the small rig cage clamp that comes with its clamp adapter. So that's all nice and tight, and you know, not being able to be damaged. So that's how I have the monitor connected for the HDMI, and at the same time have it indefinite power through the mini V mount battery connected through it. Now, just right there, I have a 3D printed unit, which so dark. See if we can see it better that way. So it's just kind of like a little screwed M, if I can point at it correctly right here. You know what? I have some printed out over here that will probably give you a better illustration. You see, that's exactly what I mean about the contrast. How everything is dark is kind of really hard to see. Well, I've been printing a variety of different models of cable management. As you can see, this is one of them, which is just like a half hook with a screw. Now, this one here is much bigger, but it's in the same style. Now, the one that I have mounted here on the camera has this style where it has just like 2 hoops and a hole in the center, so you could just like screw it down with a 1/4-20 screw just anywhere on your rig. But it has this size hoop on it, so it's like 2 of the smaller hoops, so it takes up a lot less space, and it just sits right there behind my handle, which in this case I'm using the small rig handle. And to get it to its furthest most position on this rig, I have it on the NATO rail right there system. So I threw a little NATO rail in the front clip, and that's how I have this handle connected. And like I said, this is for the FX30 with no XLR cable connected to it, because we have the entire cheese plate on the top ready for rigging. Now, on the other half of that cable management, I have the USB that's connected to the battery itself and then plugged in directly to the side of the USB on the FX30. The reason why I have this done is to basically have indefinite power and the ability to hot swap, because I do like the DTAP, battery to it, because that does save some weight. But because I've saved weight on so many other aspects of it here, including the ultralight kit, I decided to run the battery inside the camera. So let's say this were to be on a tripod, it will be recording, let's say, it can record as much space as your camera has available or your memory card has available. So at that moment, let's say you're recording an 8-hour, video or meeting, conference, concert, whatever it may be. This allows that the camera is running off of the battery power, and this trickle charge is just keeping that battery 100% throughout the day. And then the only other thing that the battery is powering up is the monitor. So if at any time you needed to hot swap, meaning the battery is dying and now we need to change to the reserve, all you would have to do is just disconnect these two, right? Change the battery out, and because it's running on the battery in the camera, it's not going to stop recording. You don't have to stop. Everything's just going to continue. If you have one of these batteries, the monitor will stay on, and then as soon as you pop in the fresh battery that's fully juiced up, you'll be able to just once again reconnect these. And as you can see, even if you didn't have a hot swap, monitor to save the weight, by not adding the extra battery, you'll still be able to just wait a second and then the monitor will pop back on and nothing has stopped and recording continues. So that's the reason why. And then with this, I have routed the cable away from everything else, which makes it easy to handle, to grab, and none of these cables are in the way of me utilizing the camera. Now, because Sony cameras have such amazing autofocus, I do have a focus wheel here, but at the same time, I don't have it on the focus ring. I actually 3D printed a much wider gear ring here for the follow focus setup. But what I did is I actually connected it to the zoom, so that even though it's working the appropriate or good quality autofocus, and I'm relying on the autofocus system that Sony has done a masterful job on, this gives me the versatility to be able to zoom in all the way to 240. Now, this is a 24 to 240 millimeter zoom lens from Sony. It is OSS, so it's optically stabilized. It is a variable aperture, so it does close down, but just to 6.3. So if you're talking about, I'm getting 240 millimeters at f6.3 from like f4, which would just be like bonkers. It still takes amazing video and photos at that range. Now, I have it mounted here on my FX30, so this is a crop sensor. This is a full frame lens, so you can get a 24 to 240 with this setup exactly the same way if you were running the FX3, and then swapping it to that dual ISO of like, I think it's 128,000 or whatever it is, that's like so high that you'll be able to get like low light even though you're using this lens, because it's a full frame lens, so you won't have any like vignetting aspects or problems with using it on a full frame camera. But because it does have a crop factor, that means that we need to multiply this, and the 24 to 240 magically gets upgraded to a 36 millimeter to 360 millimeters. So the way that I have it set up here, it's giving me that focal range flexibility. Like, this lens can basically do it all. That I can go from 36 millimeters, which is 35 millimeter equivalent, like take a step back and you got a 35 field of view, but that you can go and reach out to 360, which is a lot closer to the 400 millimeter range, all in one lens. It's it's a like secret weapon type lens, and I need to make a dedicated video on it because like you don't basically see that. Now a couple weeks ago or last week I mentioned that I did the contest for Maker World, and that's exactly the part that I have here right up front. Actually, let me take the matte box off so you can see it a little better. And that's exactly the lens support, as you can see, so that when it's sitting here, I'm able to zoom out a lot easier because the gear is doing the work on the gear and not trying to kind of prop up the lens, because the weight of the lens is now being propped up on that lens support. That's why I made it, and I had it in white, which I still do. I have it here. And then I made a new modification. This was a request to make it for a Velcro strap. So now that's also available on Maker World. If you're interested, you can download it there, a remix version of my lens support. But that is there with the hole cut out so that you can loop a Velcro and then wrap the Velcro around the lens so that it's being supported by the rails like on all sides. So pretty cool. But I have the original version still on here, and that's the way that I have that set up there, with the, like I said, the 24 to 240 lens that zooms out all the way. Then took it off, but that was the next thing I was going to talk about, which is my matte box. Now I got a K&F Concept matte box. I really like this one. First of all, carbon fiber, so it keeps with the aesthetic. My rails are carbon fiber, plus my RigJunkie internals are carbon fiber as well. This one will loosen it up to open it up here. And what I really like about it is that it has the ability to stack multiple filters. So you have two sets of, you know, like filter options. You can set one to clear or like a pro mist, and then maybe another one, and you can stack it right on top for, you know, like a variable ND or something like that. You have a lot of options here, and then it looks good as well. You know, like I've seen the ones with the flaps on all sides, but at the end of the day, I decided that I really didn't need all of that. I just needed a good matte box to have the filter system, and then to also just give me the right shade from the top side. So this knob here just controls the tension of the matte box. And then we're coming to the last parts of this. Actually, you know what? Why'd I put it back on when I'm going to be breaking all of this down? You know, I just realized I should have been breaking it all down as I was talking about it. Well, to finish up, as you're seeing it like it is, right, is my RigJunkie Ultralight kit, which is what lives right in between everything. It's holding the battery, it's holding the top and bottom cheese plates together, and then smushing all of this goodness in between with the camera sitting right there. A lens guard protected, perfectly designed for the screen so that it just looks flush, and it gives you protection, you know, against impacts. So let's say you're using this, you can pretty much just ride on this and know that your camera and the screen and the hinge here, which is the most important thing, are safe, and that you don't have to worry about like taking damage there. The last piece that I printed, as you can see, it's got a very similar aesthetic, is my my tripod mount. Now the traditional mount for this could not fit because I have the rails that extend to the bottom. So I made and 3D printed my own design. I took the measurements of it, and now this is just like extended, so it allows me to screw it down all the way onto the cheese plate for security, but then extends just perfectly enough so that I can slide it onto the tripod, and it does, you know, and it doesn't affect the rest of the rig. Plus, it's made out of the same ultralight carbon fiber infused PLA that I'm using here, so it's not really heavy and not adding to the bulk. So it's doing exactly what I needed to do, and also keeping it light and keeping it all in the same aesthetic. And that is my, oh, forgot to mention this side. Yep. Now I have this available and it's all flush mount, but this is also so that you have the ability to use the side of the cheese plates to actually add, you know, additional cheese plates to go vertical and give you the ability to expand. Oh, that wasn't expected. That was an accident. I hit it with the monitor. But to the ability to expand and just add, you know, more rigging capabilities. And I'll touch on that in a little bit once I start breaking down the backside of the V-mount, because the same thread pattern that's on here for the V-mount is very it's similar. It's almost like universal to a variety of different cheese plates, so that you can mount those cheese plates on the back of the RigJunkie cage, because you can do whatever you like with it. It's just a part that's modular that allows you to connect your camera, but then allows you to the flexibility to just go and do whatever you like with it. Oh, and not to forget my small rig, you know, handle, which is just perfect. It just gives me the right grip. As you can see, very streamlined and kind of like thin overall, like from the top. You can see it's not too thick because it's just easy for you to just like ride on your hip and just use this as a run and gun setup. So let's go ahead and just start disconnecting cables. First, I'm going with the monitor. And these locking have the holes into the grips. I don't know if you know if you've never seen it in action. Let's go ahead. Use the other side. Oh, that's why. Got the wrong size. All right, there we go. Oh, that's tightening. I could put it as well. Bam. All right. That's the monitor off. Cables here. Disconnect. Batteries out. Let me grab a... I didn't mention what I was gonna grab, but lens cap and body cap kit or set. Gonna loosen that just to move it out of the way so that I can remove the lens easy. Bam. Chunky boy. Body cap. Lens cap. Boom. So you can see all of that is coming down so quickly. I tightened that pretty good. Is this it? Yeah. All right, loosen the HDMI cable. This is the one that I need. All right, and now to demonstrate and show you exactly my little M mount cable, you know, guard, or what I would say, what would this be? I'm running a brain fart on what I call this, but a cable clip, but that's it. Oh, and here's another trick that I do for all of my rigs. I highly recommend this. It is a Velcro loop, right, for a cable like this, but I'm able to mount on just about any quarter 20 hole here, and I'm going to show you how. Ta-da! A hole punch. So I have a bunch of Velcro straps that I have here for a variety of different projects and things like that. I use them a lot here, but just to show you exactly what I've done, take the cable off to the side. I took about a, what, like 1.5 inch piece of Velcro, and then I just punched a hole with the hole punch right in the center. that allows me to drop in a 1/4 screw with the small little, like, you know, like the small profile, and then just mount that anywhere on my cage, and that becomes a cable wrap. Absolutely gangster hack. It's one of my favorite things, and as you can see, I used it to guide the cable and manage it correctly, exactly where I wanted it to go. RigJunkie tip of the day. Okay, so yeah, if you don't got one, you see Arts and Crafts hole punch. This is gonna help you a lot. Hey Andrew, I was mentioning you before about the modification. So everyone say what's up to Andrew. He's the one who gave me the idea to make this mount here for the Velcro and make this modification. And I sent you the link on IG so that you can grab it yourself and then start using it, you know. But so let's continue breaking this down. Oh, like I mentioned, I'm using the NATO rail system on the top part here. This is a big Velcro fan, as you can see. Yeah, you saw the tip on this one with the hole punch, dude. This is like my favorite. All I did was just take like a half, an inch and a half of like Velcro, hole punch on it right there, and bam. Drop a 1/4. I'm able to mount it anywhere on the rig and have a nice little, like, you know, perfect little cable wrap for it. And, you know, it's nice and tight to the system. But continue. Okay, so now I took the NATO rail small rig handle off, and now I'm going to take the rail system that I threw on there on top itself off. Now, my RigJunkie kit here has the ability to put a lot of handles directly on it, but the way that I had it like in the system, it would have just hung back a little bit too far, and I wanted it up here. So for that reason is why I went with the NATO rail system. Let me... I don't know what I did with the rest of the handles. I got quite a few, but I have some that just are screwed in either the 3/16 or the 1/4. Regardless, you have a variety of different mounting points here. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is take off the tripod mount that I've created. Oh, I forgot to do it, but I was gonna weigh this and it just went like 8 pounds, 8 pounds, 7 ounces, I think, something like that. So compared to my rig that I had at Creator Camp last year, I think I already shaved off like 3, maybe 4 pounds. Just to show you. I have these spaced out at 40 millimeters, which is, you know, very similar, but just in case you don't have the same exact cheese plate, I made these to be variable so that you still have the ability to use this. But as you can see, it's just a taller mount that sits here and gives me the space that I need instead of, you know, throwing a bunch of extra metal cheese plates on there so that I can get the height that I needed or the distance off of it so that I can mount the camera onto a tripod. But now with 3D printing and modeling, I'm able to do this on my own. Very, very useful. But now the next thing is I'm going to take the 15 millimeter rails off. Very intense song for this part. As you can see, this is my entire system. I have the follow focus that I'm using for zoom, so my zoom focus. Then just the 2 mounts of the 15mm rails and my lens support 3D printed as well. Bam. All right, and we're getting closer and closer. So now, here I added this extra piece of weight of metal, but that also is just to show that you can rig up a lot more things to it. Now, this is mounted directly to the bottom cheese plate, so it's metal on metal like connection. There's no give and there's no force that's being or weight or inertia leverage being forced onto the actual RigJunkie kit. Now, this space here is actually designed for cable management. So let's say you did decide to use the D-tap battery, you know, directly into the camera, which I like because it also saves weight. You have the ability to just route the excess cables in there, and then like they're out of the way, and then just have another small cable coming from this same, you know, like, you know, recessed area to the battery. But yeah, like this is pretty much already just stripped down. So let me go ahead and clear this stuff off of the desk. There it is. I heard something fall. Quarter 20 screw over here. Okay. Now what I'm going to show you here is the prototype of the RigJunkie Ultralight, but for the XLR kit. Now, this, as you can see, is very, very different. Now we still have our compartment for excess cable, but I shrunk it even more because we were adding so much height to it. So this is what I'm prototyping, but the last thing that I'm trying to figure out is if this connection here from the top to bottom is sufficient, right? Because this is the part that actually just adds rigidity to the handle. And the reason why is because when you add so much extra weight to this kit here, is like I'm demonstrating, you're putting a lot of extra weight onto this part, which I don't really think it was designed for. I think this was designed to carry the weight of just the FX30, and then when you start adding all these big lenses, all this extra weight to it, I don't feel that this has enough like oomph to hold all of that. And one little wrong, you know, herky jerk, so to speak, will just have this snap here, and then you're out at like $700 piece here with the XLR handle. So to prevent that happening, I added a little bit of rigidity to it, where as you can see, you'll be tightening it in from the back, and then this connected to it is the most like compact and like shrunk down version that I can get it to, including adding the battery, which will sit right here, like just perfectly in its place. As you can see, everything's nice and fitted. The only concern that I have is to see if this is sufficient enough of holding it together, but that's where we're doing, you know, like the R&D, or I am myself, to see if that would be enough. Now, that is why it's still not 100% and why that one's not active, but this is the one that I'm working on, because this will be available basically as soon as I'm done with the live stream and I'm uploading the pictures that I'm gonna take of this, because we're just stripping it down to the block itself. So now I'm gonna reverse what I've done, and I'm gonna disconnect the camera from this kit. Let me get something to drink here. Focus. Cord some of these screws over here. Uh-oh. There we go. Ageless Picks. Hey, what's up, man? I hope all is well with you, just the same. How are you doing this Saturday evening? All right. 2 quarter 20s at the bottom. Are you gonna get stuck there now? When you're live is fun. Screws not wanting to cooperate. All right, now we disconnect. Bam. As you can see, this is the FX30 with the small rig cage on it. My little small rig handle. And that's as small as this guy gets. But we're going to just put him to the side. And now this is like the bare bones ultralight kit. So it's basically the body and the 3 main pieces that are connected to it. The top and bottom are nicey rig that you can find. This is a nicey rig, you know, like top accessory or cheese plate. This one is one that's specifically designed for the FX3 or FX30, which is why everything just fits so perfectly. And then we have the way that we have these pieces connected. Now, what I wanted was max rigidity, and one of the things that I've looked into was the like inserts for, you know, like 3D printed parts. The other thing that I looked into that I have as well are these what are they called? It's almost like when you break a nut. Forgot what the name of it is. Hold on. Yeah, the thread repair kits here. So this is the one that I got with the quarter 20. So you're able to put these like coil, what are they called? Forgetting the name of the, I'm having a brain fart again. Well, these that they're coil inserts. These are actually like better than the, what are they called? Than the heated inserts, right? These are threaded inserts, but they actually hold a much better weight or load on them. But regardless, doing all my research and trying to make this you know, as light as possible, adding more weight to it wasn't ideal. So I went with a new system where I'm actually connecting the screws from the inside out to these pieces and holding its rigidity. Now you're gonna have to get it in your hand so you can see that this, like, it's not that it's unbreakable, but with your cage here and having it, you know, crimped down onto it, this thing is a tank. This thing is like nothing's gonna get past it. Is full on, and you know, I'll vouch for that. Like, it will have to get hit by a truck or dropped off of a 2-story building, and at that moment I'm not expecting much of anything to survive. But at that point, if you know that that's what you're going to be getting into, I won't recommend this setup for you. There'll probably be something else. But at the same time, yeah, the helicoils, yes, that, thank you Andrew. The helical coils, or the, yeah, but is that the helicoils? So yeah, the helicoils, I looked into those. I looked into the inserts, and I got a bunch, you know, I just bought in bulk, and I'll end up using them eventually. But I went with this once I, you know, was able to kind of think a little bit outside of the box. So the first thing that I did was I connected the V-mount part on the back, and to get the right angle, right? To get the right height so that, let me grab the battery again. So that when I mount my V mount, it's flush. See, and this is like super important that the bottom was flush so that if I didn't have anything else, this can just sit there and be part of the kit and not kind of just make it like tilt up because it was hanging too low or too high, so to speak, right? So I wanted it to be flush, which was part of the aesthetic that I wanted it to have, and I was able to succeed on that. But to do so, the screws, if you can see on the inside, they have to go really high. So to get that height, but also keep the rigidity and the strength in this, right, in this apparatus or into the construction of my design, what I did was I created slots that were like long so that you could kind of insert them and kind of loosen them, and then the loosening allows them to move up and down so that you can install them like so, but then move them to the top. And once you have the right, you know, like aesthetic, that's when you can go back in and tighten them down. And like I said, with this design, it wasn't a hole being cut throughout the system or throughout the design to like make it a weak point or a point where, you know, it'd be stressed out. So that's what I went with. Completely. And this is the point that I also wanted to mention. The distance between these two are 18 millimeters, which is exactly the spacing that you find on the back of the small rig V-mount or the mini V-mount clip. Now, what that also does is that it's the same spacing like on a lot of these cheese plates. As you can see, so I can add that plate right there, tighten it down, and do the same exact thing if a battery is not what I want to add to the back of my RigJunkie kit. Let's say I wanted to add something completely different or a different type of battery altogether, like the aforementioned the NPF batteries from Sony. So I have an adapter there that I can use that as a, you know, like a trickle charger for this kit. And if it's something that you already have, then you have the ability to mount that instead of this V mount. So you have flexibility, and basically every cheese plate that I own has the spacing of 18 millimeters one way or another, because all of these here, like on the big cheese plates themselves, these are all 18 millimeters just the same way. So if you wanted to throw one of these bad boys right back here just the same, hey, feel free. Like I said, it gives you the ability to modify this how you like. So once we have that, the next step that I have is basically I'm going to be disconnecting the bottom cheese plate. Now I added some extra large screws, which is up to you, but that's just my liking. I'm gonna grab the size Allen wrench for it, which is not the standard quarter 20 hex, which is a 4 millimeter hex. This is the 6 millimeter or the 5 millimeter, but nonetheless. And what I'm doing is that I'm using the same holes that the cheese plate have here. I designed that hole to fit the Allen wrench keys perfectly, so that's where you're able to get some torque into these screws to add them on and remove them. Ooh. If I can. There we go. See? Now I'm gonna go ahead and switch over. And then these I'm gonna use for the ones in the front. So you see, it's like an inside out type of system. And now Once this is disconnected, the bottom, we're going to use these holes to disconnect the top chase plate, which is the last piece. This once again is the 1/4-20, but I'll just go drop it right in through the same hole and disconnect. And that's it. There we have it. The RigJunkie Ultralight for the Sony FX3 and FX30. This is the body. We have built-in cable management there as well. So let's say you don't, or you do have the coil type or the bungee type of D-tap battery cable management that you need. You can just wrap it around there at your heart's content. You have the protection for the LCD, and as you can see, extremely light. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. This is what I forgot to do at the beginning, was put the whole camera rig on the weight together. Right here. Gonna go ahead and turn that on. We're on pounds, but no, let's go to grams. 145 grams. So that's all that's being added to your kit as far as weight. And that's what I tell you, when you're talking about grams that you're adding to your kit instead of, like, you know, pounds, because everything that I had prior to this was just metal on metal and just making Lego pieces to stack up on each other. Not that it's not functional, but carrying around 13 pounds for like 13 hours is interesting. And I'm not talking about with a kit or anything, just in my hands. So as much weight as I can save is highly appreciated. It's almost like hiking mentality, right? Where, you know, you have to go to every single gram. And here we're only dealing with 145 grams. And that's why this to me is my version 1 completed product of the Sony FX3 FX Ultralight from RigJunkie, which brought to you by Mr. Camera Junkie, which is me, this guy. So there we have it. And now that we're all done deconstructing this, I'll be able to take some photos of this product photography, and then I'll have that ready on the website, because it's basically like the missing piece that I have, or that I needed, especially because let's say you have your own 3D printer and you're like, man, I'm interested in getting one. Well, I'm also giving the availability, and I'm selling all of the STL files so that you can print them yourself. And then basically you have an unlimited supply of these, because you can print as many as your heart, you know, as your heart's content. These take around like 5 hours to print, right? And you can print it in any filament that you like. Now, I am going to constantly be updating and experimenting with a variety of different filaments, because the technology is constantly being upgraded. Why do I say that? Because there's one that's coming out the 21st of July, and I'm really excited about it. Now, this is called PLA HT, high temperature. So it's PLA plastic, but it's high temperature. And this is the big one, okay? It can withstand up to 300 degrees Celsius, which is bonkers, because now that gives me the ability to make light modifiers, because I have a lot of lights that do get warm but don't get 300 degrees hot warm, if that makes sense. But before, if I were to make anything in like standard PLA, they can get hot enough where the plastic itself would then start to wilt and kind of like melt down. The reason why I print these in the carbon fiber PLA is because they have higher heat properties, but also strength properties. So this is almost like an automotive type of quality that you're going to get with a carbon fiber infused PLA, because it can withstand the higher levels of heat. And like I said, this isn't even getting anywhere near like 150 degrees Celsius, which it can or Fahrenheit, excuse me, that it can handle. But this new PLA HT that's coming out is next level. Like, you can bake it, you can put it in an oven at 250 degrees, and it's gonna be like, what's up, bro? It's just gonna be chilling, which is ideal for other ideas, because there's a lot of things that I would like to make, you know, for modifications for the interior of my vehicle, right? And I would never have thought of it, because, you know, like here in South Florida, it gets hot. It gets hot over here, and then like you heard the game, like the floor is lava. Well, at noon, if you're trying to go to lunch in your car, your steering wheel is lava, but literally, because it will burn the skin off of your hand. And that's how hot the interior of these vehicles can get in the South Florida sun. And for that reason, a lot of these 3D printed things would not withhold the heat that is oven like inside of you know, like some vehicles here in South Florida. So for that reason, I'm really excited for that new upcoming piece of tech. I already have the PLA on pre-order, because I can't wait to just start testing things out to see exactly what are its strengths and limitations, and to see if that's something that could be implemented here. Because the next thing is to get a carbon fiber infused PLA with the high temperature frequencies, or you know, attributes onto it, so that then you can get something extremely useful, not for only my, you know, use case, but like automotive. Like, you can actually start making and designing parts for under the hood, right? Under the hood, to get under there and start getting like carbon fiber strength, customization with, you know, at least a minimum of 300 degrees, you know, like resistance before it starts wilting, or you know, like doing anything like that. That's amazing. But that's what's coming up, or coming down the pike very soon, when it comes to 3D printing and that aspect. Which brings me to the next segment, which is Cities Gaw, channels that I think you should go and watch. And this week's Cities Gaw is Mr. Slant 3D, which is exactly what we're talking about here now. If you're looking to do something like I'm starting to do, don't put all your weight on one foot and then lean back. Not a good idea. Okay. So Slant 3D, right? If you've never heard of them, which you might not, because you might be checking out cameras, but if you're into the 3D printing aspect, you might have heard of them. If not, let me be the one to introduce you to this YouTube channel. This week's Cities Gaw is Slant 3D, and if you're trying to do something like I'm doing myself, which is trying to create a product, right, using this form of technology, this is a great place to actually get started, to look at it as a business. Now, they not only print parts, but they're actually dabbling into making their own filaments, and then providing filament for creators like me at the lowest cost, because they're creating kind of like a subscription program, right? Like, if you're at least going through like is it 2 kilograms? So basically, if you're basically going through like at least 8 pounds of filament a month, right, which means about 4 spools. If you're going through about 4 spools, then it might, you know, like behoove you to look into getting a system with them, because they're providing a like ship to your door, and what's most important, it's all made here in the USA, which is something, when, you know, with today's landscape, it's very important. I just had a not so great experience with PCBWay when it came to just look, I'm not even going to get into it. Just not a great experience. That if I could have found, or if I would have known that it was anything like that, I would have gone with the US based company, because the money that I would have hypothetically saved, which I didn't at the end of the day, would have saved me a whole lot more time, and it just would have been a overall better experience. So I try to look for US based companies as much as possible, but I'm also an Amazon junkie, so I take it with a grain of salt. But if you're looking to learn into making this a business, then I highly recommend you check out Slant 3D. They have a lot of great information, not only on how to print quality, but how to maximize, how to price your prints, how to do a variety of different things when it comes to this. And if you're gonna grow into something as big as, like this one says here, massive 3D print farms, then this is a great source for you to look into and learn from. So this week's Cities Gall, all about 3D printing today, talking about the RigJunkie kits, and also Mr. Slant 3D over here, and teaching you how to maximize your business if you're looking to get into it for 3D. So this week's Cities Gall, channels that I think you should go and watch is this YouTube channel, Slant 3D, and that's it, guys. We did it successfully. We have done episode 240 of the Camera Junkie live stream. And if you're figuring out, like, what does that mean, what is 240, and if it's your first time here, then let me explain. 240 is the amount of consecutive weeks that we've been doing this Camera Junkie live stream, week in, week out, without skipping a beat. So make sure you subscribe, you hit the like button, mark it down on your calendars, because we're going to be doing episode 241 next Saturday, same time, same place, right here on the Mr. Camera Junkie YouTube channel. So the party's gonna be right here, and we have our added countdown. So for those of you, just mentioning it again, that we only have 3 more episodes past today's episode at this location. So Studio A of Mr. Camera Junkie's live stream is going to be no more, and we're going to see what we do with Studio B. So if you're interested in following along throughout this whole thing, make sure you subscribe and do all the YouTube things so that you don't miss a live stream and any of the content coming around the RigJunkie things, or like the studio setup, because there's just a lot going on, and it's all happening in the month of August. So I'm excited for it. And as always, guys, thank you for hanging out here with me. You are the reason why this is my favorite place to be, and this is the reason why 240 consecutive weeks happens. So I can't thank you enough. You guys make this my favorite place to hang out. So as always, yeah, just super grateful. But that's it, guys. We're wrapping it up here. Just a shade over 11 o'clock. And like I said, if you haven't done so already, mark it down on your calendar. Next Saturday, same time, same place. We'll be bringing it right here for episode 141 of the Camera Junkie live stream. So until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see all of your smiling faces next week. Until then, talk to you.
Huh?